Hey guys, and thanks for watching another episode of Westlore. Today we're going to be talking about shot lists, and I'm really excited about this because shot lists are probably the one thing that really will enhance your visual style and give you a lot more control on set than ever before. Basically, what a shot list is, in a nutshell, it's a document. It basically forces you to think through your script and to plan out how you see the film as it should look when it's all edited together, the final product before you even start filming. So that's the purpose, is really to translate the script into a series of shots. And a lot of times what that will do is it'll force you to think through things differently, and your script will actually end up changing because you're forcing yourself to see things visually, and you're planning things that will alter the script. So it's a great document to have. Now, usually what I do is I keep this red binder with me at all times. I have my script in the binder as well, but the first document that's in the binder is the shot list. The shot list becomes the thing that I reference the most when I'm on set. Very rarely will I actually look at the script, especially because there's pieces of the script within the shot list. Now, here's one of my shot lists from Variants, a short film that I just finished. A little weathered, but basically there's 6 different columns. The 3 major columns are description, which is essentially what part of the script is this shot in particular referencing. The performance notes, which is any sort of thing that I want to give to the actor for this particular shot, and then the technical notes. So basically, what type of lens are you using? Are you using any equipment like a tripod, or is it handheld? Um, is it a wide shot? Is it a medium close up? That sort of thing. And then any other notes to do some sort of technical camera work, like pan or tilt, or dolly forward, that sort of thing. So the other 3 columns on the left-hand side you'll see are setup number, scene number, and shot number. And basically, the reason why this is so important is because you can only shoot a maximum of usually 24 to 30 setups in a day. That's including whether you have a ton of equipment and a big crew or no crew at all. Really, 30 is kind of the max for the day. And if you try and do more than that, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You're going to be trying to catch up all the time. You're going to be rushed. Nothing's going to look good. So I always keep track of the setup numbers so that I can, when I'm planning the day, I make sure that I don't give myself typically more than 24 setups in one day. And that's usually kind of the sweet spot for me. One of the things that I use in tandem with the shot list is I will then create a schedule for the day, and I'll reference which shots in the shot list I'm going to shoot and in what order. So basically, when you're creating the shot list, what you want to do is you want to actually create the shots in the order that they would appear when everything's edited. Obviously, that's not the best way to shoot stuff because a lot of times we have to shoot out of order. So the shot schedule for the day is just something that I quickly put together that's an easy reference to say, okay, here's what order I want to shoot in general. Now, a lot of times what will happen, you don't have the opportunity to go to set ahead of time. Should you still do a shot list? And my answer would be yes, you should, even if you have to change things later on, um, because the location is a little bit different than you thought it would be. It's still helpful to think through the way that you're going to be shooting. It just helps organize you and prepare you for the day, even when you have to change things. I typically don't do storyboards because I just don't find them that helpful, but I do stick figures and little boxes to sometimes inspire me to work through the shot list. So that does help me. But I'm only referencing shot lists when I create, when I'm thinking about the pre-production process, and when I'm thinking about the way that I'm going to shoot stuff. When you start your shot list, you want to be careful that you don't start to create the shot list without taking steps back and remembering where you are in the script, because it's very easy to get a little too granular when you're creating the shot list. And that's a problem because when people are watching your film, they're obviously seeing the whole thing as it's flowing. Yet, if you forget where you are when you're creating your shot list and you shoot your film that way, it can um, give you the type of film that you didn't necessarily intend to do, if that makes sense. So, what I try and do is I create a checklist for myself of things that I want to think about as I'm creating the shot list. So, I'll read the script 3 or 4 times before I start to create the shot list. I will print out a specific script just for the shot list, and I'll mark up that script of where I want to remember certain things for later when I'm creating the shot list. So, for example, one of the things that's on my checklist, I want to identify certain places to put subjective points of view. Another important thing that I put in my shot list, when I mark up my script, I mark up exactly where in the script I see slow scenes and I see fast scenes. That helps me remember when I'm creating the shot list. Hey, this little moment here, this chunk of the script should be fast, so maybe I want more shots to film so that the editing is a little bit faster in this moment. Or maybe I need to think of ways to whip the camera over from one object to the other so that the pacing is much faster. So that's another helpful thing that I do. Another thing is creating moments in the script that I remember for establishing shots or transitions to from scene to scene. So, for example, it's always good to have great transitions in movies so that you can just flow from one scene to the next without jarring the audience. So, you know, I usually will create transitions in scripts before, or think about transitions in scripts before I start to do the entire shot list. And that's incredibly helpful because if you notice, a lot of movies, either when they start a new scene, they'll either start with a really close up shot or they'll do an establishing shot, like a long shot. And that just helps to basically cut from one scene to the next without any kind of jarring issues. But sometimes too, you can do some clever transitions. Like you can have somebody look off at the end of one scene, and then you see their POV, but it turns out it's not a POV shot. It turns out the camera pans down, and we see that same character again, walking towards the camera with someone else, and that's a clever transition, and it's something that will help you kind of form your scenes from the flow of the scenes from scene to scene. And then finally, one other thing that I like to think about is off-screen presence, which is essentially what don't we see in certain scenes. What don't we what's implied but isn't shown. And I think that's something that's fantastic about film is um, you know, it's not just about what we see, it's also about what we don't see. So, for example, I might make notes of where I see feet or hands come into shots. This could be when we introduce a new character, but it could also be certain moments that I just don't want to emphasize the actor. I want to emphasize what the actor's doing. And for me, just making a checklist of those items really helps, so that I can kind of make notes on the script so I don't forget about those particular moments as I'm going through the script, shot for shot, translating the script into shots. So finally, I just want to say that, again, one of the great things about the shot list is it actually makes your films more cinematic. The reason being is the films that are the least cinematic are films where cameras are just doing coverage. They're just covering the action. That's what TV does, essentially. They have 3 or 4 cameras going at the same time, and they're just letting the actors kind of do their thing like a play, and the cameras are just covering that play. I think that's incredibly boring and it's not very cinematic. Instead, if you have one camera and the camera is doing a sort of dance with the actors, the camera is doing unique things in every single shot, different setups. Um, when you've planned stuff out so that you're doing interesting things with your camera, and you're doing it because you thought it through with your shot list. To me, that's essentially one of the big things that makes cinema cinema. So this shot list, as you kind of work your way through it, will help keep you organized. But again, it will make your films a lot more cinematic. And I can't stress that enough. This is a great tool. So please leave comments in the section below if you have questions. I'm sure this is the first of many videos that I'm going to do on shot list because there's a lot of information to unpack. So I'd love to hear maybe certain areas that you still feel I didn't cover, or something that's confusing you. Your experiences using shot list. And again, thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it.